The ultimate insult to 14 men who made the supreme sacrifice for the nation. The blood-stained, bullet-ridden uniforms of the Sukma Martyrs dumped in a pile of garbage. The uniforms, shoes and other belongings of the martyred soldiers were found in a pile of garbage outside the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Medical College mortuary in Raipur. For now, none of the agencies involved, the hospital, the state police and the CRPF, are willing to blame their own outright. According to procedure, all three are responsible for preserving the uniform as case property. Both the state government and the CRPF are now conducting a separate probe into the matter.
मैंने तुरंत छत्तीसगढ़ के मुख्यमंत्री जी से बात की है और उनको मैंने कहा है कि इस मामले की जांच कराई जानी चाहिए और इसमें रिस्पांसिबिलिटी फिक्स की जानी चाहिए।
दुखद भी है और शर्म का विषय है और इसीलिए मैंने जांच के आदेश भी दिए हैं ताकि और इतनी बड़ी दुर्भाग्यजनक ये घटना क्यों घटित हुई तो इसके लिए हमने आदेश दिया है।
If anybody in CRPF is at fault, तो I'm going to be very serious about it and we are going to take action.
पोस्टमार्टम जिसका हो जाता है उसके विश्राज या पार्ट जो प्रिजर्व किए जाते हैं जांच के लिए भेजे जाते हैं वो ओपनली नहीं रखे जाते, वो हमेशा फॉर्मलिन में प्रिजर्व करके अलमारी में बंद किए जाते हैं।
A political war also rages over the insult to the slain heroes of Sukma. The BJP government at the centre is red-faced and the government in the state has yet to punish those behind the insult. With Jugal Purohit in Raipur, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Let's take you across live to Bastar tonight. Joining us from there is Jugal Purohit, one of the most experienced correspondents when it comes to India's internal security, tracks the Naxal menace more closely than any other television journalist on the beat. Jugal, this is not the first time something like this has happened. Last time it was in a garbage dump that the bodies of our CRPF braves was brought. What's been the reaction amongst those CRPF officials you've been speaking to on this grave act of disrespect to their valor?
Well, you see, Rahul, there is a big problem that the CRPF faces. Its top leadership is from the Indian Police Service cadre, and its ground leadership is all from the CRPF cadre. Now, initially when the story broke, Rahul, there wasn't much of an outrage, which is now being seen on our cameras by the senior leadership. It wasn't visible back then. But on the ground, I've been visiting a lot of these camps in the Bastar region, speaking to a lot of these people, and they're absolutely dismayed and heartbroken by what they're seeing. They're saying that if they can't even handle our uniforms properly, just who exactly are we fighting for? And as you rightly pointed out, Rahul, this isn't the first time that Bastar has seen a bloodbath of this type. This isn't also unfortunately the first time when such kind of maltreatment has taken place with the dead body. So it's really conveying an extremely bad message down to the rank and file, and there is some amount of demotivation that has taken place. Now today, Rahul, if I can quickly add, the CRPF leadership suddenly is trying to make amends, asking them if their living conditions are fine, they have enough toilets, malaria medicines and all of that. But there is a damage which has taken place, and the men on the ground are definitely noticing it and are feeling extremely bad about it, Rahul.
I will be asking this question to my guests as well, who will be joining me on our debate in just a moment from now. But since you're the person on the ground, who's responsible for this grave act of disrespect, Jugal?
Well, Rahul, if we are to, just go by procedure, then the hospital authorities under no circumstances had any business of disposing of these uniforms in the manner in which they've done. The first scenario is that the police asks for these uniforms because there's a FIR in this case and they will need investigation, forensics to be done. The police did not ask. And in the second case, if the police were not to ask, then the hospital authorities necessarily have to hand over the uniform to the unit of the force concerned, in this case the CRPF. Now whether or not a CRPF official was there at the spot to take these uniforms is something that the inquiry will order. But again, as I said, that under no circumstances did the hospital authorities have any mandate to dispose these uniforms off in the garbage bins. This is something which is absolutely unacceptable, and now as these inquiries are going on and the effort is to pin the blame, but as I said, that the damage has already been done. The Jawans on the ground are feeling extremely demotivated by seeing that their fellow colleagues, their fallen colleagues, and their uniforms are now rotting in the garbage bin, Rahul.
With what face can we expect these brave Jawans to take the bullet in their chest if we can't even take care of their dead bodies? This is as grave a disrespect as there ever can be. Jugal Purohit, for that report tonight, thank you very much. Our big question that we're asking on News at 9 this evening: who's responsible for this grave act of disrespect? What action must be taken? Should heads roll? More importantly, whose heads should roll, especially given the culpability of the state government? This has happened in Chhattisgarh earlier as well. Joining us for our face-off tonight, I want to begin by introducing Dr. Kiran Bedi, one of India's foremost police officers. Also with us, a doctor by profession, now spokesperson of the Congress party, Ajay Kumar. Another doctor by profession, now spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Sambit Patra. I want to go across to Sambit Patra first, because Sambit, this is not the first time such a thing has happened in Chhattisgarh. Given what happened in the previous occasion, when bodies of CRPF martyrs were brought back in a garbage vehicle, surely Chhattisgarh government should have learnt its lessons now. The state hospital comes under the purview of the health ministry, which comes under the purview of the state chief minister. Why is such a travesty, such a grave act of disrespect allowed to perpetrate in Chhattisgarh, which is run by your party? Dr. Patra?
Rahul, undeniably this is shameful and this is very sad. I mean, there's no denying to this fact. But most importantly, as your reporter himself was pointing out, and very rightly pointing out, I as a doctor, as you yourself introduced me, have seen as to how postmortems are being performed, and there are interfaces of interaction between various agencies there. The CRPF, the local police and the doctor, they are the three interfaces which have to act in the whole process. If any possession, material in possession or the uniform of the victim is taken out, then naturally this is to be handed over to the competent authority, which is the CRPF in this case, by the by the local police, the doctor acting as a stamping authority with stamps and signatures.
So you're explaining to me what the process should be. I have only a simple question. Why was it not followed, Sambit Patra?
Exactly.
Don't tell me what should have happened. Tell me why didn't it happen and what action you intend to take against those responsible.
Someone of these three, the police, local police, or the doctor, or the CRPF has erred. Who has erred would surely be found out because of the fact that two investigations have been ordered. One by the Home Ministry and the other by the magisterial inquiry of the Chhattisgarh government. So I believe these issues, which are very sad indeed, should not be politicized in the way in which we have a tutu-meme between politicians, and we miss out the bigger lessons that are to be learned.
No, I'm sorry, the lessons that had to be learned, Sambit Patra, by your party, by your state government were never learned. Unfortunately, this happened previously under your watch and it's happened once more. Dr. Kiran Bedi, from all that's available in the public domain, who do you think is responsible for the grave travesty? What action do you think should be taken against that person or people?
There's always one person's accountability while others are equally accountable. I would say the Director General of Police of the state, because this has happened, it's a law and order issue, a crime has happened in his state, it is his leadership. He may be supported by CRPF. So CRPF, DGP equally responsible, but primary accountability, DGP, police, which is, you see, when something good happens, Home Secretary would have stepped in. But I would still, as a cop, say the DGP leads the law and order in the state. Secondly, he is equally aided by the DGP CRPF. So two Director Generals of Police, DGP of the state, DGP of the CRPF. Since the matter has also happened in the hospital, is the medical superintendent. I would say these are the three key.
Do you think the heads should roll, Dr. Bedi, to send a message out to all officers that treating our brave Jawans in this cavalier fashion is absolutely unacceptable? Do you believe that the heads of the DGP of the Chhattisgarh police, the head of the medical superintendent and also of the DG CRPF, should they roll, ma'am?
But that's not our culture. That's not our country's
I'm asking
culture.
you what you think,
Heads do not roll. They should roll. And that should be a setting of a practice. They should roll, but then they should always roll, not only in this case. That's the point.
I want to go across to Dr. Ajay Kumar. He's also a former police officer, a very well-regarded police officer. Now, the state police force and its chief, the DGP, being blamed by Dr. Kiran Bedi. Dr. Kumar, do you accept Dr. Bedi's suggestion that the heads of the DGP of the CRPF, the state police and the medical superintendent of that hospital must all roll? Do you agree?
You know, Rahul, it starts, I think, from the top. So I'm not going to politicize like Sambit had said that. But the fact is that the government of Chhattisgarh, it's happened earlier. And it's also the leadership issue, even with the elected representative was also responsible, like the Home Minister of the state. Were you camping there when this incident happened? And the culture of, non-accountability, because you're going to have a report, everybody says we will find the people guilty, but, unless headlines today or somebody follows it up 6 months later, 1 year later, the families of the victims, the accountability of the people responsible, nothing is going to happen. What is disturbing in Chhattisgarh is, if you look at it from the medical perspective also, related to medicine, 18 people died and 80 people got blind a year before that. So what is scary is there something which is a big cover-up happening in Chhattisgarh in terms of, government delivery?
Who do you think, Dr. Kumar, is responsible? Who do you think is the one person whose head should roll tonight?
See, one thing, look, the state home minister should have been camping there because it's a huge incident. See, if the minister camps, shows commitment to the force, the DG, the Director General of Police camping there, the health forget the health secretary, but the the DG CRPF, like Dr. Kiran Bedi correctly said. But at the end of the day, the political leadership sets up the pace of accountability. Who is, after acts and acts of what happened with 28, and I'm not saying Congress people died, but it's an important issue. 28 people died in a huge incident where, Mahendra Karma died and Nandlal Patel died and all these people. And apart from that, in the past 3 years, there has been over 3,000 incidences and 1,000 people died. 600 civilians, 300 odd policemen and 300 odd paramilitary forces. What is happening in Chhattisgarh is what is scary. Actually, the mainstream media needs to say that is there actually a serious breakdown and total, domination by the left extremists. And there is no leadership there. So, political leadership, yes, you can, DG, police and both of them are accountable, the medical superintendent, but what about the political leadership?
You make an important point and I want to put that question to Sambit Patra. The clear breakdown of civilian leadership, the fact that Andhra Pradesh, through its Greyhound, was able to neutralize the threat posed by the Maoists. Despite all the thousands of crores that have been pumped in by the Indian state, Chhattisgarh has not been able to get its act in order. Your state health minister was missing in action. Your medical superintendent erred on the ground. One after another, the Naxals are succeeding. The Indian state is failing. Clearly, Raman Singh is showing that he's not being able to win the war against the Naxals.
No, I would not say that. I would not.
No, of course, you would not say it, but that's that's the factual assessment of where things stand. I would not say that
because of the fact that the paradigm shift as far as Naxal infiltration, Naxal war is concerned has to take place, which will gradually take place under this strong government, in the sense that we believe that the Naxal attack is a war waged against the state. And previously we used to think that probably it is because of the fact that development has not taken place in the area, which is not the case, because Naxals have always hampered development as well. And we have seen in this particular case as to how the Naxals used human shields.
No, Sambit Patra, don't use dilatory tactics. I'm asking you a direct question.
You are asking
even in the underdeveloped area. Sambit Patra, listen to my question and then answer.
No, I
even in Sambit Patra, allow me to pose my question and then answer. I can't allow you to go off on a tangent because time is scarce and I want to use it well. Even in the underdeveloped areas of Andhra Pradesh, where there was a similar Naxal threat, the state government was able to neutralize the enemy. In Chhattisgarh, the Raman Singh government, despite all the help that they've got from the central government and the CRPF, is being unable to do so. Ajay Kumar argues that your man is unequal to the task.
To Ajay Kumar, I would say that Mr. Ajay Kumar is also aware, as any of us is, that the Naxal war is fought in fact in tandem between the state government and the central government. So in fact, any kind of war that was taking place till now, any kind of arrangement that the state government had till now, 6 months back from now, was with a government which was Mr. Ajay Kumar's government. So if at all he wants to say that the whole war has been lost by the state government, then his central government, which was till about 6 months ago, is
why haven't things changed in the last last 6 months. Forget what happened before May.
It is changing.
Why haven't things changed in the last 6 months?
I'll tell you something, Rahul. If I have the count, you have the count of number of people who have died in the 6 months before May, then probably it would be far more than what it has happened in this 6 months. But this is not the question that we are fighting. This would be very low on my part to start such kind of statistical comparisons. But my bigger question is, look, as far as martyrdom's insult is concerned, there are certain insults which are committed by sinful omissions, as has happened in this particular case. But there are certain insults which are committed by sinful commissions, as we had said in case of
I am
Batla
shocked that
House
you call this a
encounter.
simple. One second, I'm shocked that you call this a simple omission.
Yes,
because
it is
this
sinful.
reflects
It
a
is
perverse
sinful
mentality
omission of what
on the
the
part
duty
of
should
your
have been.
state government to believe that this is a
Why are you
simple
shocked?
omission.
This
This
is
just
sinful.
shows the mentality of the civilians. None of them are going out
It
and
is
facing
sinful
bullets.
and
None
it
of them
was-
are tackling the Maoists in the fields. None of them are out in the jungles, and when our Jawans go and lay down their lives, you call this a simple omission? I'm
Not
shocked.
simple,
I want to bring in
sinful.
now. I want to bring in now
Sinful
PK Mishra.
Rahul, I
He's been a
object
former
to your
ADG
anchoring.
of the
I
BSF.
object.
You can
I
object.
Rahul,
You can object,
cannot
Samit
subvert
Patra.
my voice. It is
We're not
sinful.
you've had your say. You made some points we
SINFUL.
disagree. Allow me to proceed.
No,
I want
no,
to bring in
you
two
are
guests at this
misquoting the
time.
headlines today is misquoting my sentence.
We're not misquoting
I
you.
object to
The whole
headlines today.
everyone
It is
who
sinful.
watched this bulletin,
You have to
Samit
allow-
Patra,
you repeat
knows
your
exactly
telecast
what you
and
said.
show.
You're
I
calling
told
this a simple omission. This is absolutely not a simple omission.
Mr. Rahul, sinful, S-I-N-F-U-L, sinful. It is full of sin. It is sinful omission, and certainly certain sinful commissions have also insulted martyrs, as the Batla House encounter. Get your English right, Mr. Rahul Kanwal. Hear properly before you utter your words.
I want to bring in, anyway, that's his assessment of what he said.
Rahul.
I'll allow him to correct himself if he wants
Rahul.
to change his
No,
mind.
I
That's
allow you
perfectly
to
okay.
correct yourself.
I want to
Rahul.
bring in at
Repeat
this
your
time.
tape before you
Samit
utter
Patra,
your
don't
words.
raise your
Rahul.
voice,
Get
please.
your
Samit
words
Patra,
right.
don't raise your voice. I want to bring in at this time PK Mishra. He served with the BSF, and the man that you also see on your screen is Ian Rammohan. He's the officer who put together a report to analyze and assess what happened after the previous Dantewada encounter. But first to PK Mishra. Mr. Mishra, who do you think is responsible for what happened in Sukma? What action do you think should be taken against this?
Mr. Rahul, I have gone to
till 9:20.
Just one by one, please. Yes, Mr. Mishra.
And Jaram Ghati incident, both the incident and SP Pako's killing and Jamui railway station firing. I have seen more. I have gone to the place of occurrence, and I know how my Jawans, particularly the BSF and CRPF paramilitary forces, and particularly my Jawans, how they are operating in those difficult areas. What has happened yesterday in the Dr. Ambedkar Hospital, it is a disgrace to the Jawans and to their families, to the force and to the nation. It is never harder. And the responsibility, as I was listening to a lot of politicians, I am not politically giving a statement, but the responsibility was of the SP of the district, particularly the police officer in charge who was supposed to be there, and the medical superintendent. What action has been taken till now? Has the medical superintendent been suspended, or the SP of the superintendent of police has been suspended, who was there in charge? These are the two persons who should be taken into action. Of course, you can call the health secretary and DG police and other DG CRPF. I can only tell you one thing. The DG CRPF on 30th of November has superannuated. Till today, we don't have a DG CRPF who has not been appointed by government of India. The worst part of it, the DGs also, they don't belong to the force. They are from outside. The problem is there is a gap between the DG police, DG CRPF and DG BSF with the troops. They don't belong to the force. They come on deputation for 1 year, 2 years or 3 years and they go back. Because they do not know the psychology, ethos and training and other things of the force. Because they have not done the BOP duties with the Jawans, which the Border Security Force or CRPF or ITBP officers, they do. Because they remain with the Jawan. So the difficulties of the Jawans which they face, the difficulty of the families, the humiliation of the families what they face is really not known to the chiefs. The chief.
These are very important points. And Dr. Bedi, you've been a big supporter. I think you're making some very important points, Mr. Mishra. Dr. Bedi, you've been a big supporter of the BJP government, the Prime Minister and his approach to national security. Does it concern you that 6 months later, these basic structural problems, Dr. Bedi, these basic structural problems of the DG of the CRPF coming from outside the CRPF. Now, for a normal viewer, it might not make a difference, but as somebody who understands military command and control, it's impossible to have an officer who doesn't understand the organization's ethos to be suddenly made in charge. So far, the central government has made no effort to try and change that, Dr. Bedi. Do you believe that these mistakes will continue till the time these basic structural changes are made?
For years to come. They
Dr.
will never
Bedi.
change this policy.
There are two aspects to this incident. One is what you've shown, how the uniforms have been in the dustbins and who should have been responsible. Now you shifted it to the other issue of larger issue of Naxalism and its leadership. My personal view is the leadership varies from person to person. It is not the issue of an IPS or a non-IPS. Any IPS or a non-IPS, if it turns out to be a good leader, can deliver. He or she can work with the rank and file and be welfare oriented and sensitive. If you remember, one of the first statement which Mr. Narendra Modi mentioned on the DGP's conference was the word sensitive. Sensitive to welfare. Now, sensitive to welfare means the primary foundation of any leadership. It's immaterial whether you're an IPS officer or a non-IPS officer. If you can be a non-IPS officer and yet be insensitive, the commandant of the BSF, the CRPF, who's on the job, what did he do?
They will never understand the ethos and culture of the force.
I've not interrupted you. Let me make my statement. You have a right to your own opinion. I respect that. Please allow me to explain. This is a perennial issue of IPS versus non-IPS heading BSF, CRPF, IDPPs and others. This has been a perennial issue. But India is both unitary and federal. IPS is the unitary element of the Indian police systems. That is where it coordinates at the central level, and policing is not in isolation. It's a national coordination which the Indian Police Service provides amongst the services, within the services, because we train together and we work together. But as I said, an IPS is fallible as much as as a CRPF officer could have been fallible. What we're looking for is good leadership. And second aspect is, since you've taken it to Naxalism, is that what is important is this is a red corridor. You can't isolate Naxalism to one chief minister alone.
Okay.
That is where the role of the Home Minister, that's where the role of the Prime Minister comes in, where Naxalism as a red
I'm out of
corridor
time on this
has to be
debate.
handled. You can't leave it to one chief minister alone.
Yes, Ajay, just 30 seconds, you need to wrap up. We're out of time completely.
Rahul, I disagree with Ms. Bedi on it. Look at the Andhra experiment. So the fundamental thing is you're glossing over, and it's not a political point. The fact is Chhattisgarh is burning. The fact is that the Naxals dominate a lot, and the fact is that the officers on the ground didn't do their responsibilities, whether it's the medical superintendent, the Supreme Police and the Home Minister. They're accountable, and believe me, after 1 year, if you see a report, nothing would have happened. No accountability, no changes, and the poor Jawans will continue to die.
This is where we wrap up
has got a serious
this
Naxal
debate
problem
tonight. Here's what I wish to say in conclusion. Clearly, the Raman Singh government hasn't learnt its lessons. By now, the medical superintendent should have been acted against. The SP of the area should have been acted against. This whole business of filing a report is only a way of deflecting attention. Whoever's in charge of the hospital and his team have clearly erred. And the other important fact, I disagree with what Dr. Bedi is saying. To be in charge of, say, the CRPF of the BSF, an officer, whether he comes from the IPS or not, who spent time with those Jawans, will do a much better job than somebody who's just been parachuted from the outside. This is one of the big failures of India's national defense architecture, which the Prime Minister should hopefully look at over the next few weeks and months if we are ever going to resolve this problem. For the time being, to all our guests for joining us on the special program tonight, thank you very much.